point, just chime in. Real Advantage title is not quite here yet, so we'll wait for them. But we can get started. So talk about goals and ambitions every week. Again, this is kind of our opportunity to share a big goal that we have with the group, whether that be a short-term goal or something more long-term. Tyler always talks about how he wants to own the Jazz and the Rolls Royce. Paige wants to build a crazy $1 million house or something like that, right? Yeah. So this week, let's focus on more of a short-term goal. What's something in the short term you guys like to accomplish? Has to be lofty, just joking.
How short term? In a couple of years?
Whatever that means to you. For me, that's like a couple months to a year or so,
Okay.
maybe two.
I'm on a down payment for a home.
Nice. Down payment for a house. What are you, Leilani?
Especially, well, I do that too.
Perfect.
So down payment for home, close 10 houses.
Very good. Awesome. Close 10 houses, get a down payment. How about you, Tim?
I was planning on reading at least a single book each week about just opening up different opportunities in my mind so that I can present to people better.
Nice. Love to hear it. Paige? So buy a house in the next 6 months to a year? Yeah. Somewhere in there. What about you?
I'm gonna make at least 100K.
At least 100 grand in 2023. Awesome. On Zoom, Cash, what's a short-term goal you have that's, gets you motivated?
I'm going to sell 20 houses this year by the end of this year. So the end of December.
Very good. Love to hear it, man. I mean, you're starting to pick up a lot of momentum, man. I wouldn't be surprised if you do it. Taryn, how about yourself, my man? Okay, no problem. Carlos, what's the short-term goal you have?
Probably sell a house or two. Keep working on that.
Awesome. So I'm always going to stump you guys with this. Make sure you watch the way you talk. If you say probably, it's probably not going to happen. So what's the difference between a goal and a wish?
Goals written down.
Well, right. Goals written down, but it's also the way you talk about it. A wish is like, man, I would love to go to Hawaii. Goals like, I'm going to Hawaii by the end of the year, right? Like more determined. So, so it sounds like you're going to sell 2 houses, Carlos, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
For sure.
Kate, can you jump on here real quick and give me one of your short-term goals?
Sorry, did you say me? Yep. I'm gonna find 10 people to help either buy and sell by the end of this year.
Love it. Very good. Kaylee, I saw you joined us. What's a short-term goal you have?
I'm going to close 5 deals. Yeah.
Love it. That's the right way to talk about it. Taryn, I don't know if your mic's working now. Just wanted to see if you want to jump on here and share one of your goals with us.
Hello.
Hi. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. That's right. Cool. So we get to talk about the principle of be, do, have, then give. So for those who haven't heard this yet, a lot of people have the kind of mindset like, oh, when I have more money, then I'll be more generous. When I, have more time, I'll be a better, father or, mother or spouse or whatever that happens to be. But you have to first become the type of person that can then do the type of things that will give you the ability to have the results you want, and then in turn give it to others, whether that's, through teaching and experience or charity, monetary, whatever it happens to be. So just think about that today. Try to be the type of person you want to be, and everything else will fall into line. So next slide, moving on, big wins for the week. So Cash Shepherd was able to get 1 under contract, got 2 BBAs and set a couple physical listing appointments. Kate Anderson was able to get someone under contract. Lyric got a BBA. Carlos and Taryn both completed 2 case studies, as well as Sam. Sam actually graduated Ignite. And then Ryan Squire got a BBA signed. So congrats to these people. Is there anything we missed? Anything else anyone wants to shout out? Either that's yourself or someone else in the team.
My first closing tomorrow.
I survived the first day of school. Does that count, Riley?
That's fair, yeah. And then Cash, your first closing, we did miss that, so congrats. Getting some money in the pocket, I hope you're here, man. First of many.
Good job, Cash.
Anything else? Cool. Scott Hansen's birthday, August 18th. See him. I don't think I've ever seen him. But that's all right. Pro team meetings daily. So we have team huddle 8:45 every morning. Let's see. Next Monday we've got Ignite group coaching at 10:15. If you're not a part of group coaching yet, ask me how, and I'll give you a couple instructions on how to join us. We'll do group lead generation and script practice, and then in the evening afternoon we'll do Coach's Corner, which is again group Q&A. We've got Transaction Tuesday with the wonderful Jen on again Tuesday 10 or 9:30 10:30. Wednesday August 24th we have Ignite as well as a CE class. Thursday we have our meeting again as well as Shift, and then Friday is another Ignite session. So plenty to do and learn next week. What's up?
Coach Corner, are you changing it to 3:45?
I may have been typo, but yeah, Monday afternoon we do Coach's Corner. We just did it 3:45 this week. So Real Advantage is here with us. I don't know if you guys on Zoom will be able to see. There's some people, there's like 5 or 6 people on Zoom, so we'll have to just talk and include them. You're good. But we're gonna do a training, so I'd like you guys to take over and kind of give us an idea of what we're doing here.
Okay. A lot of information,
Let's do it.
but I noticed that as I've helped real estate agents learn what a title report is. They become so much more effective. And when you show up with a title report, we have prepared for you. With your listings, you really show up like you know what you're doing. And you're one step ahead of any of the listing agents. It's saying, please, let me list your house, please let me list your house. Because you said you've already done the background check on the house. You can say, look, these are things I've noticed on the house already. And they're like, you're a step ahead. So, title insurance commitment is what you have in your hand. That's something that you order from us, and we do research on the property. Because this commitment is going to, when everything closes, turn into a title insurance policy. It's an actual insurance policy like your auto or your home or any life insurance. It's a policy, it's an insurance policy. So there are stipulations involved, there are exceptions is what we call them. And so we're gonna go through all that stuff.
Can you guys hear him okay on Zoom? If not, I'll move my computer closer to him. I'm gonna actually just pull up my email. It's just this one's broken for some reason. Are you guys able to hear him on Zoom? Okay.
It's a little soft. I can hear him, but it's just soft.
Yeah, I would say for recording sake, Riley, that move him closer to the microphone.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just pull up a title report for those on Zoom, just off of my email, just so you guys can get an idea on what we're working with here. And as he walks through, I'll do my best to follow along, or at least give you guys a visual. But yeah, Doug, good. Sorry. That microphone's busted, so I just use my computer.
Okay, so. All right, so when you receive a title commitment from us, you can see right there, the first 4 pages are basically explaining limits of liability, definitions, just like your auto policy, when you get the actual policy in the mail. There are diverse things that say these are definitions, and it goes through all the basic meanings of each word. And then there's limits of liability, you can see on page 2 there, page 5. For the company's right to amend, meaning through the process, we can change things as we go. On the 3rd page, shows more how arbitration works. If they fight and say, you guys can insure a property, we're going to sue you. We go through arbitration and all those things, right? On the 4th page is where the real meat starts. Okay, you can see up at the top left, Real Advantage Title Insurance Agency. This is the office, the Orem office is the one issuing this. There's a loan ID number, commitment number. And then this commitment number is how we track this policy in our office. So if you call us up or you email us, you say, hey, on file number 22-11036. That way we don't search through that name, or we don't search through the address. You do the file number, we can pull it right up. okay, property address, and now here's your commitment date. Now, the commitment date's important to understand because sometimes your lenders are gonna say, we need an updated PR. Because when we do a search on a property, we backdate it 2 weeks. That's because Utah County is slow in getting everything, a new deed of trust or a new warranty deed. They're slow in getting that recorded properly and actually on the PR. So so you can see this commitment date says, what does it say?
It's we're on Schedule A right now, correct?
Yeah, Schedule A.
Okay, perfect.
This commitment date says 1/21/22. So we actually did this, we actually sent out this commitment 14 days after this. You see that? So that would be what, 28, let's say the 7th of February is when we actually did the research on this. And we actually sent it to you guys on the 7th of February. So we're gonna backdate it 2 weeks. Okay, smaller counties like a Carbon County or San Pete, they're like 7 days or 1 day sometimes. Because you give them something in San Pete County, they record it, they look at it, it's done. Utah County has so many filings all day long, they have to review them to make sure they're done properly. Because they'll bounce it, if we don't do it right, the warranty deed or the deed of trust, they'll bounce it. So they'll record it, but it's not actually against the property properly, so we call it being bounced. So that's why we have this 2-week gap, okay? So if your lender is taking 45 days plus this 14 days, it's gonna be out of date for them. It's almost 60 days. So they say, we need an updated one. So you just give us an email, update this, our title company reviews it, our title department reviews it real quick, send it right back out with a new date. Okay, that's 2 weeks behind today. Okay, all right. That's important to know. That might come up sometimes on some of your contracts that take a longer time than normal.
Yep.
Okay. Now here comes the homeowner's policy. Now, when you guys know that if I'm selling the home and you're coming to me for the listing, I'm the homeowner. And so in almost all your contracts, it says that I'm required by contract to give a title policy to the buyer. This is why you want to come with this prepared for your listings. You can say, I already have this prepared for you. So this is the homeowner says, what do I need to do to sell this place? Well, most contracts say that the homeowner, have to offer the buyer a clear title. Well, that's what this commitment does. This commitment says, this is clear, everything's clean on this property, except the one deed of trust that I have against the home. And through this transaction, that's going to be paid off, and the buyer's deed of trust is going to be put on the property, their mortgage, right? So when you show up with this, you can say, I've already got your title policy ready to go, your commitment. And they're like, oh, I didn't know you have one. Don't worry about it. That's why you're going to hire me, right? So the homeowner policy is what the homeowner that you're representing, that's what he's going to have to show the buyer when they show up, okay? Proposed policy amount, 240, so that's the purchase price, okay, $240,000. Proposed premium limit, that's what we charge for the title insurance, okay? And it's all based on purchase price. So let's say it's 2.4 million, that insurance premium is going to be much higher, right?
This is a seller side PR, correct?
Yeah, it's both.
Oh,
Because we're going to go to the loan too.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, depending on the purchase price, that premium will go up. Okay. So we have a grid table, and we can give you a copy of that if you want, so you can look at it. These rates right here are the ones that are, we have to submit these rates to the title insurance division of the state every year. They approve them. And if we're going to increase them, we have to tell the title insurance division. Okay. So that's why most title insurance policies cost about the same. With us or someone else, they're going to cost about the same. That's why you have to come to us, because we have better service. Okay, so once the seller, once you get listed and you have this rated offer to the buyer that comes along, the buyer then goes and gets a mortgage. Well, the mortgage company requires a title insurance policy to cover their mortgage. Okay, the deed of trust, okay? So now we have a loan policy. That's the next thing down there, the loan policy. And this buyer went to United Wholesale Mortgage, okay? They're gonna be the underwriter for his loan. His proposed policy amount is 220,500. That's his loan amount. So the underwriter will always want to be covered for the loan amount. Okay, so this title policy will cover that. Okay, so now you can look at that and you say, oh, purchase price is 240, loan amount's 220. So in your head, you can know what percent they're putting down for their down payment, right? So you can, if the 240 and then it's 240, the loan amount's 240 or even higher, you're probably doing an FHA, VA, there's an actual down payment, probably an FHA or conventional loan, right? You can just look at that by the loan amounts and see that. Because as you guys have probably reviewed, there are certain FHA and VA requirements in your contract. You guys gone over that?
No, well, they probably have with Jen potentially.
Okay. So that's sometimes you look at that and go, oh, it's probably an FHA, what is this? Okay, so same thing, premium amount, 861, that's based on the loan amount of 220,500. Okay, now this is a caveat that's really important to understand. When you come with us and we do, if the seller closes with us and the buyer closes with us, the buyer gets a 30% discount on that 861. You see that as a premium. So the buyer, it helps the buyer, but if your seller is paying closing costs, it helps both of you. Because that's probably should be around $1,100, but because they're together, they're both closing with me for a real advantage. We give a 30% discount on that loan
It's good. Yeah.
premium. Okay, so it helps the buyer. And so if you're representing the buyer and you know that the seller is closing with us, you say, hey, let's tell your title, your mortgage company, we want to use Doug at real advantage title, because then you get a 30% because we already know that the seller's closing there too. Okay, so that helps you and it helps the seller if they're paying closing costs. Okay. All right, endorsements or normal endorsements. Usually endorsements are what you can add on even to your auto policy. Your agent will say, hey, do you want to have roadside assistance for $5 extra a month on your policy? That's an endorsement to your normal auto policy. We do the same thing with title. So they seem kind of not that important, but sometimes you'll get a bank. They'll say, oh, we want 19.1 endorsement on our policy. They're very minimal. You can tell by the price of them how much they cost or are a risk for the policy. Look at those bottom two are 0. So you can tell that's not that big a deal, whatever that endorsement is, right? There are tons of endorsements you can put on there. All right, the state order of interest is fee simple. You guys know what fee simple means? Fee simple means you own. She's like, I should remember. It was on the test.
I know for the past, but I don't know.
So my sister-in-law, just ex-sister-in-law, moved to Texas. They bought a home in Texas. And I said, they have 20 acres, trees all over it. And I said, and they're like, man, the taxes are crazy here in Texas, unless you have the agriculture agreement with the county. And he said, we have 20 acres, half of it lumber. And he says that drops us in. He says, and then if I cultivate 2 acres into alfalfa and have cows, I drop down into the agriculture and their taxes just drop.
So is that like a green belt here?
Same here. We have the Farm Act here. Yeah. So, but the thing is, he says to me over the phone, he says, but in Texas, when you buy land, you own all the water and mineral rights all the way down to China. I was like, what? I said, you can drill for oil on your land? He says, I can drill for oil on my land and it's mine. And all of Texas is that way.
Well,
Utah's not that way. We're a fee simple. We're a fee simple situation, which means you own maybe 3 feet under your foundation and that's it. So if there's any oil or minerals or something under your house, you don't own it. Okay, that's what fee simple means. Okay. So I live in a condo on the 2nd level. Guess what fee simple means for me?
Nothing.
Nothing. I don't own the air underneath on the 1st floor. Okay, So that's what fee simple means there. We're a fee simple state. Okay, all right. Then it says here, this is vested in Utah Close Fast Cash Home. So an LLC owns this property. Okay, that's important to know who the vesting is. We had a contract come across the other day, and it had, John Doe was selling it to Doug Roundy. Well, we pulled up the title report, and it was Utah Close Fast Cash Home Buyer. So who's John Doe? Like, oh, well, that's the president. Okay, well, we need to know that information because we had another one. Marty Soul Baker is actually working on it. And this lady thought she owned the place, but she was 2 people away from the actual owners on the chain of title stuff. And I was like, she doesn't own this, or she thinks she does. So the vesting of who owns it is really important. Okay, so when you go to sit down as a listing agent, you say, hey, I see that it's vested in Utah Cash or someone's revocable trust. And they say, oh, yeah, that was grandpa's trust. We just never changed it after he died. Oh, well, it's been in the grandpa's family trust for 20 years now. Yeah, well, we need to get Doug on this, make sure. Because you can't, if you're not the executor of that estate, you can't sign this contract that I'm trying to list with you. You see that? So vesting is very important. You sit down and say, hey, it's in your name. Looks like it's in your and your wife's name as joint tenants. Yes, it is. Or it looks like it's in so-and-so. Oh, that's Uncle so-and-so. We actually just kind of moved in here. We gave him $20,000. And so you're really not the owners. So I can't sign a listing with you because you really don't own it. So vesting is very important when you look at that and sit down for listing. Okay. All right, let's go to the next page. We got time?
Yep,
Nothing too long?
you're doing just fine.
Okay, next page, this Ken Higley, he's our title officer. He's licensed with the state to be a title officer, so when he says, this is what's on title, this is what is going to be binding. Okay, just like your auto and home policy, there's a Schedule B. We just finished with Schedule A, right? So here's Schedule B, Part 1, requirements. These are requirements that we're going to have in order for us to show clear title. Okay, pay the agreed amount for this interest insured, pay premiums, fees. So if there was a deed of trust, it would say pay off this deed of trust. It'll say stuff that we need to make sure happens for us to issue a clear title policy on that, right? All right, jump to Schedule B, Part 2. These are exceptions. Now, exceptions are what are on every insurance policy. I used to sell commercial insurance to businesses, and I would call up the owner, and he says, "Oh, I got general liability, don't I?" Yeah, you do. I said, "But did you read Schedule B, all the exceptions?" No. I said, "Yeah, you are covered generally, insured generally, except for this, except for that, except for this, except for that, except for this, except for that, except for this, and except someone walks in your front door and slips and falls, you're not covered." See, there's an exception in here. So we list exceptions that say this property is free and clear except for these things. Okay, so we can go through them real quick. You can read those real quick. They're easy. Easements, liens. Of course, we can't cover lien against liens, right? Because the city has liens, not liens, but easements for utilities, gas line, cable comes in, sewer line. Those are all easements. So we have to throw that in as an exception because we're not clearing the title except for that, right? Boundary line discrepancies, title companies can't get involved in boundary line agreements. That's between Grandpa Joe and Grandpa John 30 years ago, and they agreed that this little lane or fence or whatever, we can't jump in and say, well, this is what they agreed, because we don't know. They wrote it out, we'll show it on the title report, but sometimes you have to get a survey done, especially now with our GPS, we can know exactly where that line is. And we've had people do surveys and they're like, holy cow, I just gained 20 feet times 100 feet long. And the next neighbor's like, no, that's not what Grandpa said. And I was like, well, that's what the GPS says now. We were wrong all these years. So title report can't insure against that stuff. Okay, so we put it in there as an exception. Okay. Unpatented mining claims, we talked about mineral rights, right? We don't, if we're a fee simple state. Tax or assessments are not payable. So this is a requirement. Taxes have to be paid. Okay, most mortgage companies will require it anyways. They'll say, we're not issuing, we're not going to give you this loan unless all the back taxes are paid. Same thing, we throw that as an exception. Any service installations, what we call number 7, what we call mechanic liens. Okay, if a plumber comes along and does work for $10,000, homeowner doesn't pay it, they put a lien against it. We can't insure against that. It has to get paid or cleared off somehow, right? And then defects in public records. And Utah County does have defects in their public records, so be ready for that.
So for all,
Not very often.
for all of these, Schedule B stuff, is there a different company, organization you need to go to help the client resolve them, or we just need to work with the homeowner to resolve it?
Yeah, it would be, seller would have to say, oh yeah, we'll clear that up. We got back taxes, yes, we'll pay that at closing. Boundary line stuff. Right now, all the homes are in subdivisions and HOAs. You probably won't get much boundary line problems, but on your homes that are out farther out with the urban area, the farmland and all that, you'll have some of that here and then. Yes, you need to sit down with them and negotiate it and work it out. A lot of people say, I don't care, the fence line's been there for 30 years, let's just go with that. And so if you guys agree on it, that's fine. Now, this is on the commitment. On the policy, 1 through 8 will not be on the policy. There's no 1 through 8 are kind of a boilerplate. Every single commitment has those on there because those are basic things that we accept in the policy. And all mortgage companies know that. And after you've been in the industry for a long time, you understand those things are taxes, lien, normal liens, encumbrances, easements, those things are going to be on every policy. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys what they were. Okay, number 9 is where all the meat really starts. Taxes. This is important for you to show. 868.41 for this property. You'll start getting your head, oh, this property's this old, it has this big of a house, should be around $1,200 a year, whatever. Sometimes if there's this owner of the home is a veteran and he has a disability, he can apply to the county for a reduction in his taxes. So if you look at that, this is $1 million home, but he's paying $868 a year for taxes. You can say to him, because you're getting ready to list it, hey, I see your taxes seem a little low. Is that you? Oh yeah, dad has a 50% disability from the military. So it should be $1,600. It's actually $800. That's good to know because you're going to be disclosing actual taxes. And so if they go, wait, it's actually 68. So you know that, right? As a listing agent, makes you step above another agent who doesn't know how that works. Okay. Said properties in the boundary lines of Provo and tax district 110. So this tells you where they are and how they're taxed. Railroad owners, railroads supersede almost everything, right? Because they supposedly built our nation. Number 12, subject to notes, restrictions, easements, and showed on the plat map recorded. So when a builder goes into the county and says, I'm going to build these 20 homes, here's how they're all going to be subdivided. Here's the roads, here's the easements, here's the sewer lines, here's where Cox's Xfinity is going to come in. It shows all the easements. That's what that is. The plat map tells us where those all are going to be. Okay. Any permanent easements by the county, natural gas, sewer, water. 14, any continuing assessments or liens made by the HOA. Oh, since you're the listing agent, you already know they have an HOA because you got this title report. Some listing agents show up and they're like, you guys have an HOA? Like Edgemont and Indian Hills, they have an HOA. I know because I lived up there, but I was doing a title report 4 years ago and they wrote it up with no HOA. And I said, oh yeah, there is. Like, no, we researched it. No. So we researched it in 1956. They filed HOA.
Yep. Even other ones, planned unit development, which can even apply to single family houses. So the way that they initiated the subdivision maybe 50 years ago could affect how the person buying it, how their land is set up and even structured. My sister-in-law bought a house that was in a planned unit development, even though it was listed as single family, they were thinking it was a condominium because back in the 50s, that's how they classified it. So we had to do basically some digging to look at the original subdivision plat map and verify that it was actually single family. It was planned to be a planned unit development, but the builder took it a different direction during the market downturn. So it's like backtracking all that just to find out like the house that looks just like a single family house is actually a single family house because one document said it may not be. The lender didn't want to give them the same interest rate for the loan. So.
Yeah. So all these little details are what set you above and all the other listing agents, okay? So another reason to know about HOA is what? What's gonna happen with the HOA?
Usually a fee.
A fee for, we call it reinvestment fee. The old days used to call it transfer tax fee, transfer fee. There's all different names, but right now they call it reinvestment fee. State legislature might change the name down the road, who knows? But reinvestment fee means that for the seller to change hands from the seller to the buyer, the HOA wants to collect a fee. And the state legislature, a year or so ago, said the HOAs can charge so much percent in that reinvestment fee. And guess what the HOAs have done?
Right after that. So,
What, we can charge that much? So we had one, it wasn't ours, but it was another title company. Happened, HOA transfer. The buyer's agent said, I think there's a reinvestment fee on this. Listing agent said, no, there's not. Both title companies said, no, there's not. Buyer buys a home, a month later gets a bill from the HOA and says, you didn't pay the reinvestment fee, or it wasn't paid through your transaction. You owe us $5,000. He goes back to the agent and says, hey, nobody caught this. The buyer's agent goes back to the listing agent. Hey, you didn't catch this. Listing agent goes back to their title company and says, hey, you didn't catch that. There it is. Everybody's backpedaling. So how many people could that guy have sued?
all of them. 3.
4 people, right? 4 people, 2 agents, 2 title companies, because they had split closing. Okay, so it's important that you know there's an HOA because you need to fight for your buyer or your seller to say, look, because that's part of your contract, right? Who's going to pay these fees? That's part of your contract. So when you walk in and you say, look, I've already done research, you can even ask us to order it. It takes a while sometimes, and you can walk in with the HOA printout. Says, hey, there's a $5,000. Are you aware of the $5,000 transfer fee? The seller says, I didn't know that. Well, that goes into your negotiation purchase price, right? Especially now in this market, where you have to maybe keep your sales price where it is, but then give them some concessions on closing costs, right? Just to help them want to get into the house. So these little details are important for you to read before you go sit down with your listing family. Okay, claim right, title, interest, water rights. Title in Utah, we do not do water rights. Sometimes you get out there and say, hey, we have 50 shares of water with this land. That's nice. We can help with that transfer because there's a separate state agency that takes care of that stuff, but it's not insured in the title policy. Right, that's fine. So water rights are an exception in Utah. Okay, we do not insure water rights. We can help. Mineral rights, we talked about mineral rights before. You don't have any mineral rights unless it comes with the property. Sometimes there are very few in Utah, but there are. My brother-in-law in Salt Lake has some, surprisingly. Goes all the way back to Grover, Cleveland. He's signed the mineral rights on that one. All right. Grant of easement, right of way, Ute Transit Authority. So UTA has some kind of easement on this property. Sometimes that gives you heads up there. Might be close to a rail line, right? UTA, sometimes rail line. So if you're on Orem down through Provo, sometimes that'll be on that. So they can't say, I never knew there was a railroad in my backyard, and every morning they're coming through. Well, it was on the title report, okay?
I had a situation where one of my clients' houses were built on the boundary of the school. The builder just built all the houses basically all over the boundary line and didn't catch it and didn't inform anybody. So my client ended up buying the house resale from the original owner, 2 years prior that had built it. And about 2 months into moving in, they had half their backyard taken from the school district. There's nothing they could do about it. And that's where this is important to review because I didn't review this and catch that was on there. The seller had disclosed it in the seller's disclosure, and I went through that with my client, but it wasn't something we conversated about until 3 months later. I get a call like, hey, I just got a knock on my door that they're going to move my backyard in half. Did you know about this? And I was like, oh shit. Let me look into it. That's not fun. So reviewing these, typically obviously there's value looking at knowing the whole document. But Schedule B is normally where I focus on a lot of things, just because I find that's where you'll find Things like, is it an HOA? What type of, restrictions are there? That's normally what I focus on, but then seeing the bigger picture, like, that's also where it's important to have good title people. And even when you're in the team, having Jen, because having a second set of eyes review, or even asking, like, if you don't know, like, hey, is there anything on here I need to be aware of? Well, I know you're more than happy to say, well, I kind of saw a couple things, this is what you should be aware of. Versus just trying to spitball and look dumb or miss something like I did that loses your client's backyard.
Yeah.
So,
So how many referrals do you get from that guy?
I mean, they bought another house with me, so we're all good.
But a typical buyer,
Yeah,
typical buyer be like, Phil doesn't know what he's doing. I'll have to tap my back there. I never talked to him again.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Normal
A
job.
lot of that's how you handle it though.
Yeah.
Where you just own up and do the right thing, but
Yeah.
So aside from losing the client, what are the other ramifications for that?
I mean,
Get sued or you have to
Well,
compensate them?
Well, technically, we offer this to the buyers, so they can read it and they can do their own research too.
yeah, the buyers signed the
diligence.
seller's disclosure that had it on there. So they were aware of it, even if they weren't aware of it, so that's what honestly saved my butt.
But if he's representing now, he'll go to the buyer and say, look, there's a possibility of this. And you can reach out to the school district and say, hey, you
Yeah.
guys own this property. What are your plans with this? And they're
Have a
like, oh,
listing.
we don't care. Or, yeah, we're taking it next year.
Right,
Oh, well, he would have said, you're not buying it, right?
yeah,
So you get that in writing from the school district, that way they would have to live up to their promise.
Well, school districts can do anything they want. Any state, you go to any state, school districts, they're right below the governor in power. Because they got money, they're the main
So they
tax
never
base.
write it, citizens.
They can change their, yeah. But if you get that and they say, you know what, we have no immediate plans on that, and it's just, we've just written it off as dead land. Then you're in pretty good shape. But they say, well, we're still considering what to do with that. The buyer knows,
mhm,
the buyer knows. And then you say, well, what if they do something with that? Oh, you lose half your yard. So you're paying for this square footage, except this.
mhm.
So, well, that's a great example. Same with the HOA. This buyer said, if I would have known there was a $5,000 transfer fee, reinvestment fee, I would have not bought this place. Not because of the cost to me, but because of what else?
Cost to the buyer in the future.
Resale. When he goes down the road, it's gonna be 5,000 or more, right? So that's part of his sell in the future. So yeah, all this information is important. It's like buying a car and then getting in and going, oh, there's no engine? Oh, I didn't know.
Mhm.
Nobody disclosed that to me. So if you can disclose all this information about the property to people, they're probably gonna learn something when they sit down and see the list of stuff they didn't know. Okay, so just because there's an HOA, usually, just because there's, usually means there's CCNR. So 18 says it's CCNRs, okay? And if you guys want any of these, you can say, hey Doug, give me a copy from the county of number 17 and 18 and 19. I'll look them up and I'll email them to you. So you can read them. You can say, and you can actually hand these to the buyer and say, here's the CCNRs, read them and weep. Okay, so terms of 19, there's a continuing lien and requirement for clearance. What does a continuing lien mean? If it's continuing, can I wipe it out as a title company? I can't. So the HOA has a continuing lien, meaning what?
Then it's just gonna keep going.
Right, so it's either a monthly fee or a transfer fee requirement, right? Either one or both is what that continuing lien means. And it comes from that looks like it comes from the CCNRs, okay? Here it says, the imposition of a transfer or conveyance fee is contained within this document. That's the transfer fee or reinvestment fee. So you know, they've got a fee. Let's find out how much it is. Because I tell you, your buyer, your seller doesn't know that. I mean, doesn't know the amount. They may know there's one, but they don't know the amount because it'll change. Okay. All right. 20. No existing deed of trust appears of record under current owners. So these people own the house how? Free and clear. We can't find a deed of trust recorded on this property. Now we have them sign a document that says, if there are any other liens that you know of, you need to come forward because we, as a title company, can't be held liable. We can't insure against something we can't see. So if there's no deed of trust apparent on the county records, which doesn't mean there's not a discrepancy. I've seen one title escrow officer accidentally record someone's deed of trust mortgage against a different one. It was a three-way, it was a triangle. He did it on Joe's house. Jane's house had Joe's deed of trust, and Michael's deed of trust had Jane's. It was a three-way. And I caught it, and I was like, when I was a title officer years ago, and I was like, wait a second. So I followed it, and I was like, all three of these are connected, but not.
Mhm.
And it was hilarious. So our title department might pull up. So you sit down with them and say, so do you own this home free and clear? Because that's what the title report is saying. And they say, no, we got first and a second mortgage. Oh, well, let's look, what's the information? Let's look into that. And Utah County or another escrow officer could have recorded it erroneously. Not that big a deal, except when you come to sell, right? So as long as they're paying on time, they're good. So, yeah, you can say that. They're like, how did you know we owned a free and clear? Well, kind of record they're showing on that.
Mhm.
Or we have, that's also why we have them sign that paper. If you have any other outstanding liens against the home that we don't know about, please disclose. Because we're not going to insure against those. That will be an exception for us. And the new mortgage company is going to be mad that wasn't disclosed because they're in first position. You understand how position works, right? On the lien, it's chronological. If Michael does a lien in 1930 and it never gets paid off, and someone buys a home in 1960, and then from 1960 till now, there's been liens paid off and everybody's transferred title. And all of a sudden we pull a title report and say, wait a second, this lien from 1930 is still outstanding. Guess who's in first position? The 1930.
Yeah, and mortgage companies are gonna want to be in first position 99% of the time, because if not, let's say there's a $5 lien on the house, that's first position compared to the mortgage. Well, if they go bad at that $5 lien, that person has claimed the property before the mortgage company does. Does that make sense?
So they have to pay the $5 to that individual before the mortgage company gets anything.
Well, think of it this way, if you know, I owe you, right? So there's a house, somebody owes $10,000 to, let's say, utility company, and that goes to the first position. It's never caught over a 30-year span. Today I go to buy it and Security National says, I need to be in first position to give you a loan. Because if that $10,000 goes bad or nobody pays it, and that person comes to collect their debt, they have claim to the property in full for $10,000, but I'm loaning you $500,000. So they want to know that they're first position, meaning
They
if
get-
anybody's not getting paid, they get played bill first. Is that a good way of explaining it?
Yeah, exactly right. Because whoever's in first position controls the property.
Right.
If you're a second mortgage, let's say you default on a second mortgage and they file a notice of default. For them to start foreclosure proceedings, they have to pay off the first mortgage. You see that? They can't just start foreclosure proceedings, and say, we're gonna take the house back. Well, if they take the house back, they gotta pay the first mortgage because they're in first position. Positioning is the whole thing. First or second position, way back when, before the 08 crash, we had third and fourth mortgages. And it was like, why would you take that risk as a third or fourth lien against a property? Because the first position, so let's say the whole thing goes sour and the first position, the guy in first position forecloses on the home. And after he sells the home, he has 100,000 equity. He's not required to pay the second, third, and fourth mortgage. He's in total control. So whoever's in first position, and it goes chronologically, time-wise, right? That's why a mortgage company with this loan policy that we're insuring to the UWMs, we're ensuring that everybody ahead of you, all the way back to, we can't go back to Adam, we go back to Brigham Young in this state, right? All the way back to Brigham Young is free and clear. This land is free and clear except for UWM's first position. So if someone comes down the road, UWM finds out about it and they say, hey, we're supposed to be in first position. We're gonna put a claim against this property, against the title policy, just like an auto policy, put a claim against it, right? We wake up, we go, hey, we do our research, you're right, we gotta pay this 10,000. We pay, the policy pays the $10,000 utility that was not paid years before, that we missed or whatever, right? Okay, so then last little bit here, we're almost done, sorry.
You're totally good.
All right,
Good conversation.
21, since this is owned in an LLC, we have to have a copy of the articles of incorporation, which we can get online if they're current, in order to find out that John Doe is the president and he has signing power. That's why he's gonna be on your listing on the contract, right? So we need a copy of that. Sometimes you just say to the seller, hey, I see this, you hold this home in your LLC. Do you have a copy of them? Can you email them to me? Because I need to get those to the title company. Okay, that's just the way it works. And they know that. If they're sophisticated enough to put a home into an LLC, they know they have to show that. Okay, all right. Right, and then we do a research, number 22, we do a background check for bankruptcies, felonies, tax liens. We do all that background check for everybody involved in the transaction. Okay, the seller is important because let's say they have a $10,000 felony with the state. Let's say it happened after you bought the home. Then guess where that goes? What position does that go to?
First.
No, it was after you bought the home,
So
so it's in second position. But even so, UWM who's coming behind, any felony you have that has a money attached to it, it automatically attaches to your property. Automatic. Bankruptcy automatically attaches to your property. There are certain things that just automatically. Now, let's say I sue you and I win a $10,000 lien against you. I have to go down to the county and record that in the Utah County for it to attach to your house. If I don't, then it's not a real judgment, not a real lien, right? So you can sell your house and move on, and I don't collect. So we check county records for liens, like the lawsuits. We check the state for felonies and anything else, child support back payments. They'll attach to that land. They'll attach, and you will not get rid of that until that back child support is paid. Maybe through the transaction. This pulls up and we say, if there were something going on here, and it says, Doug Roundy has $30,000 in back child support. You can say, hey, Doug, I know we're listing this and it's touchy situation, but it looks like your ex-wife has child support here. He says, you know what? I'm just gonna pay that through the transaction. I'm thinking I should net $250 on this house. We're gonna pay that off. Say, okay, that's good. You notify us, hey, he's gonna pay it off. We have to contact child support, get an updated payoff. There's 30,000 on this, might be 35 now, right? So we get an update. So we do all that. We check for bankruptcies, tax liens, felonies. We do that for everybody involved. Why would we want to be, even if we're just representing the seller, why would we want the buyer's background checked also?
Judgments.
Judgments, right? So let's say you had a judgment last year, UWM's coming along, who's in first position? As soon as he buys that house, who's in first position?
I've had multiple buyers in the last year have to go cough up 5 to 10 grand to go pay off judgments from like past criminal records or whatever that they weren't expecting. But you got to do it to keep the deal together. So it's always good to have the title company notify you ahead of time. In this case, it happened near closing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, and we can do it through the transaction. Sometimes they'll say, you know what, I'll bring in 5 grand to close the deal and just pay that off through the deal or whatever. So as long as everybody's on board and the mortgage underwriter knows what's going on, as long as they're guaranteed first position. So we do, that's what this last little bit is checking everybody's background to make sure they're above board. Okay. And then here it shows this warranty deed. That's what's showing vesting. That's the thing that shows that they put it into the LLC. Okay. All right. That's all I have. One other question real quick. One other thing real quick. Sorry if I'm taking too long. This last piece of paper, you'll get a lot of questions on this because you're a realtor, so they think you know everything, right? But it goes back to what Dean was talking yesterday, the one-stop shop stuff. And you're gonna get a lot of questions about, hey, I got this LifeLock stuff. People call them, but they can behind my back change title on my title, and all of a sudden I go to sell my house and I don't own it. And you didn't know about it, right? The fraud stuff that's going on title policy, on title people's property. Well, if you read through this, you can see that our policy, which is an ALTA policy, which means it's the same form that every title company uses. Okay, it has 2 different areas where it protects against that stuff. So they don't need to go out and buy extra life title insurance. Like charging $300-400 a year extra, especially elderly people like, oh, panic, I don't want someone to change the name. So if you read through this real quick and you get a chance, you can see that our policy covers those things. So when they ask you that, say, oh, should I buy that extra policy? Say, you know what? If you read your title policy you got in your home when you bought it, it should cover it. So
Give me three things, just to recap. I would say the three most important things an agent should glance at, in my opinion, obviously Schedule B is one.
Yeah, like you said, Schedule B is the meat and potatoes,
Mhm.
meat and potatoes.
Give me one or two other,
And then the
Takeaways.
commitment date's important. You wanna look at that and say, well, this is 2 years old. Oh,
I should update that.
So make sure that's click update.
Commitment date,
updated.
Schedule B to check for any, like in my experience, potential. I don't know, I can't think of the right word.
Hangups.
That's the best way to put it.
Stuff that you get to closing and the mortgage underwriter says, what about this? And everybody's sitting at the table going, oh, who didn't catch that?
Yeah.
So
So Schedule B, commitment date, and maybe one
and
more.
then HOAs are starting to be a problem. Be totally aware of what's going on with HOAs. Because you're gonna hit those more and more and more and more and more.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it was helpful. I personally have never gone through a full PR report. This is my first time too, so this is really good. Appreciate you taking the time to break that down. But yeah, I think that that's important to have good title people like Doug, just because then if you don't know, you can ask. You're not stuck just trying to figure it out on your own. And it's always easy to defer if your client has a question. If you're not able to handle it properly, I have a lot of sellers that go, why the hell am I paying $2,500 for an out policy? Well, the contract says, so, well, I don't want to pay that. That's easy just to refer them over to Doug and say, hey, Doug, can you please explain from your perspective, not only why this is required, but help, ease their concern on why they're paying this amount of money. And it's easy to make that connection. And next thing you know, your client's okay, good, right?
Because I think we told you about that one that the husband and wife got divorced. He owed her 10,000 and whatever payoff. He paid 4 of it. And then 3 years later, he sold the home to his next door neighbor for 250,000 handshake cash, didn't do title insurance. So now he wants this new owner 3 years later than that wants to sell it. We did the title report. We're like, oh, what about this Jennifer so-and-so that you owe her $10,000? Oh, we paid that. That's over with. No, it's still in the county records. You got to pay this. So technically, if he would have done title insurance with us, we would have cleared that all up. But now we're 6 years down the road, and this new guy that wants to sell it, if we can't clear it up. Let's say she died, or she lives in Zimbabwe or whatever. We can't clear it up. He had this new seller has to pay the $6,000. Yeah. I don't know, but for us to clear title, we've got to get, that has to be paid. That's a good question. We'll work on that, but it's like title insurance is important.
Did she say that she was paid? Like,
Yeah, we clarified fine sheets and we got that cleared up, but it took some digging
sure.
because you get a divorce situation. I hate him. I don't care if he dies. I'm not talking to you guys.
Yep,
Like, oh, here we go.
deal with that right now.
Yeah.
We're gonna quickly jump into
Okay.
quick training. You're totally fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
Appreciate your
you.
help. Yep. We're just quickly jump into buyer consultation. Again, just to reiterate, Doug and Lacey for Real Advantage. Those are 2 people you guys should talk to when it comes to your title needs. Lacey will come back here in the next couple weeks and talk about their awesome app, some of their geo farming techniques and just ways they can help you guys get business. Yep. Good. Yep. So we'll have her come back for that. I appreciate the bagels. You guys are welcome to stick around if you want to, but no obligation. We're gonna talk about obviously buyer stuff. I don't know how many buyers you work with, but that's all right. But yeah, today we're gonna talk about buyer consultation. So on our pro team website, we've already built this out for you. This is what the team recommends you use for your buyer consultation. So obviously this is what you would use when you have a new buyer. So the easiest way to present this is to offer to educate them on the buying process. Again, this is not necessarily a sales presentation. Your goal here is to come from a place of educating them so they know what to expect and what to do throughout the process. Thank you. Rather than trying to make them feel like you're going to hard sell them. So that's my personal sales approach, is more of like service-based selling or, education-based selling versus just hardballing people. And this is also a very easy excuse to get face-to-face time with somebody compared to just trying to do a transaction over text where they won't call you back, or, they don't know why they need to sign a document, whatever. So again, to preface this, you're setting an appointment with a buyer, which Austin, you're going to be my buyer. So I set an appointment with Austin. He thinks he's showing up today to get educated in the buying process. So I'd be like, yeah, Austin, thanks for making time for me. I just want to quickly jump into the home buying process and kind of how it works to buy a house in today's market. So move forward. So first, thank you for coming. Obviously, here's some of my contact info if you didn't have it, whatever. We'll get moving on. So I just want to quickly talk, Austin, about what's available about purchasing a home. So in my opinion, a lot of conflicting and confusing information that leaves a lot of people like yourself feeling discouraged or having incorrect info. Because of this, I feel like it's my duty to not only provide you with excellent service, but really I like to think of myself as an educator and a coach for you, not just a salesperson or real estate agent, right? So I kind of hold the keys to all the information that you wish you could find easily and help you understand how it, applies to you. So something I want to talk about is your needs come first. So I'd rather ask you 500 questions and show you 5 houses than ask you 5 questions and show you 500 houses. So really what I want to think about is that in this process, your needs and how your needs drive how and when we find your next home. So, and you guys have to read this verbatim, but if you don't have anything else to say, you may as well, right? So, and I just kind of summarize. So like from this day forward, man, listen, I'm going to do everything possibly motivated by your goals and how you imagine your new life taking place in your new home or your life taking place in your new home. Kind of how it works is once I get an understanding of where you see yourself, this whole process honestly will be easy and we should be able to get it done without much interruption to your regular life. So kind of our game plan is that meeting with me allows you to voice any wants, needs, and concerns, but it's also an opportunity for me to set expectations on what's realistic and achievable and how we can make it happen. Sound good? Awesome. Whoops. Cool. So, I'm going to go through and fill this out with Austin. This is over our Google site, so I can't, but what's your favorite way to receive information or updates? I've considered removing this, to be honest, and this is something you could customize yourself. Tyler and I ran into an issue where someone says email. Well, good luck getting a hold of them, right? So maybe the best way to put that is like, how often would you like me to reach out for updates? What's the best time to reach you? What's making you buy now? So I'm going to go through and ask them these questions. I'm thinking, so Austin, what's making you buy now?
Just want to be a homeowner.
So wants to be a homeowner. Okay, awesome. So, motivated to own a home, whatever. You're just taking notes just to let them feel heard and also have a reference to come back to when this is all over. So you can go through your notes and maybe put it together in a, in command with a note or something. Type of buyer timeline. So Austin, would you say you have to move in 30 to 45 days? You are more flexible. Maybe you're an investor. You're never going to move in. You just want to find a house. What applies to you? Flexible. Awesome. So you can even just put down here flexible. Timeline's not the most important thing. Well, cool. I'll give you an idea on your home wish list. So Austin, I know it's only you here today. Is there anyone else that's involved in making this decision? Nope. If he said yes, then obviously what's your next plan? Well, you got to make another appointment, right? Get the wife or the mom and dad involved or whatever, right? Okay. So how long have you been looking and what type of house are you looking for?
Just starting the process right now. Just looking for a starter home.
Awesome.
20,000 for 200,000.
Sweet. So would you say that you're okay with maybe a townhouse or condo? Yeah. Awesome. So then you make some notes here. Townhouse, condo, looking for whatever. Are you open to something that needs a little bit of love?
Yeah, definitely. Actually.
Awesome. What are your general preferences for the kitchen? Again, these are just basic thought-provoking questions. I would encourage you to go and tailor it to yourself. If you're not the type of person that wants to 20 question them, or there's specific things that you want to know. Because me, myself, I'm like, what are your general preferences for the kitchen? I could definitely ask that, and that's important, but depends, right? Who'll be living in this home? So let's list out adults, children, and pets. Is there anything else you love about your current home or any other home you lived in that you wish you could recreate in your new home? Is there anything you dislike about your current home or any other home you've ever lived in, right? These are basic questions. For now, stick with them. But if there's stuff that you're like, I just don't like asking that question, or I don't find it super important, then feel free to take it out. Again, these are just a basic guideline, and this is something that you guys will take with you when you leave the team. So it's something that you should eventually make your own or potentially customize. Maybe you work with a lot of investor clients. So it's something you can ask is awesome. And you mentioned to me that you're really interested in multifamily, like what type of financing do you plan to do? Do you have proof of funds letter that I can provide to sellers? You could dig into the nitty gritty and tailor it specific to that client. But in this case, make it simple, right? How many stories you prefer? Are you someone who wants, more main level living? Are you okay if it's a 2-story or, maybe split level house?
I'm lazy, so
Single level living. Cool. Preferred location?
Utah County.
Utah County. Okay, awesome. Any specific streets or so see like that question I wouldn't ask, to be honest with you. Streets or characteristics in these neighborhoods you're drawn to. Maybe they say they want a corner lot or something, but I hate to box myself in because what if you find out they're approved for 350 and next thing you know, you've set expectations based on, the dream house from a Pixar movie when they can afford a trailer in a trailer park, right? It's like the two different things. You gotta be careful. But what do you like to do for fun? Are there any recreational facility or I wouldn't ask faculties, but you get the idea. What do you like to do for fun, Austin?
Like
Hike.
Yeah.
This is a great question to ask because throughout the process, you can obviously, when you're looking at houses with them, make recommendations based on things in that area, but also for closing gifts, like maybe they say they're a big climber, cool, we'll get them an REI gift card, or they, are into skateboarding or whatever it happens to be. You know that now. So that's something that in the long term, you can obviously play off of and tailor their experience based on their wants and needs or their likes. So let me go back. So any other considerations I should be aware of as we find your ideal neighborhood? Maybe something that's important to you is, so a school district is incredibly important to me. Okay, what specific school district do you want kids in? Well, I hate Orem School District, so there has to be Alpine. Okay, understood, right? Things like that. How many bedrooms and bathrooms do you prefer?
3-bed, 2-bath.
3 bed, 2 bath. What lot size are you looking for?
Something big enough for garden.
Awesome. And then, what are you looking for in terms of a garage? I may ask this as, is a garage a non-negotiable for you?
Yeah, I think so.
Need a garage, okay, perfect. So if you just had a name, maybe top 5 non-negotiables, what would they be? So I heard you mention a garage and a garden, maybe give me 3 others.
Just small things, could be great for kids and stuff. That's really all. Kind of deal with it, so.
Cool, sounds great. So really quick, we're just going to talk about the real estate process. So as you can see, it's kind of complicated. There's a lot of different steps. Your basic steps are you got to see work, choose to work with me, obtain a pre-approval. We'll go through all each of these and how it works, but really the whole point is that my job is to take this whole process and make it very simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into what steps actually apply to you, right? So real estate's complicated. That's where I come in. When this is all said and done, my goal is for you to feel that, this exceeded all of your expectations, and throughout our interactions from the start to finish, I'm going to do everything possible to work hard to achieve your goals and give you great service. So when you choose me as your partner, you're not just getting a trusted, respected agent, you're also getting a local expert who's passionate about serving the community and those who call home. Let's get started. And then I just want to quickly talk about my team. So I've got an awesome assistant named Jen. Jen works with, hundreds, if not thousands of real estate transactions every year. She's been doing transaction coordination for 7 years. So her team will be behind the scenes helping make sure all of our documents are filled out properly and sent in on time. Just kind of an extra set of hands on the transaction to make sure things go smoothly. So my assistant, Jen, again, it's your assistant. My assistant, Jen, will be in touch throughout the process, and I'll even add her to our group chats just so she can be aware of what's going on as we move through this. So keep going. So let's quickly talk about the 5 steps to homeownership. So we're going to quickly ramble through them, but pre-approval, look at houses, making an offer on a home, offer accepted finishing touches. We'll jump into each one of these individually. Buying a house can be overwhelming, to be honest with you, but it's my job to guide you through each step. So from the day you partner with me and even the day you step foot in your house, consider me your dedicated real estate advisor. Again, this is just general verbiage. You can change this however you wanted to. What are you going to need to have the resources and expertise to guide you and your decisions throughout the transaction. So let's quickly talk about pre-approval. So getting pre-approved prior to looking at houses is crucial unless you're going to pay cash. I know I don't have $500,000 sitting in the bank. It's really important to not only get pre-approved so you know your numbers up front, but so then we can tailor your experience based on your preferences on your finances. So also getting a pre-approval letter is a major advantage, and in most cases a requirement for sellers when submitting an offer on their home. So a pre-approval letter basically dictates hey, I looked at Austin's credit and his employment, and I think he qualifies for this much money, so he can definitely buy such and such house, right? So it's just a written statement of that. Ensuring the lender is crystal clear in communication, truly earning your business and answers all your questions. So just like an agent, a lender is going to play the second biggest role in getting you the house. If they, if I get you the perfect house, we get it under contract, walk you through the whole process, and then they lose your financing or you lose your financing, then, none of what we did matters. So it's really important we have a team player there. And then finding out about different loan programs can save you time and money. So there are things like 0 down programs, low down payment programs, and then learning the difference between the different loan types like FHA, VA, and conventional will help you know you're in the best spot. So something that we use to help you with this is called Intralend. It's an awesome platform we have. We're able to actually get you 3 quotes off of 1 application, and those lenders will actually compete against each other to earn your business. So it gives you a very competitive quote. And then we have a guy named Mike who can help break down for you the pros and cons of each different quote and loan type. So that way you have kind of your own dedicated advisor as well as competitive quotes to save as much money as possible. So again, a lender, the person doing your loan and approving it for a mortgage, also known as loan officer, mortgage broker, etc. So look at houses. So congrats, your house search has started. I'll be in contact with you anytime something that meets your needs hits the market. Be sure to look at a handful of options and obviously let me know if your needs change over time. So great agents like myself will have tech savvy tools for you to stay on top of the competition. So we do things like daily alerts for new properties or even hourly alerts. So if something gets listed that fits your criteria, you'll be notified immediately, first to see it. We do other things like see it first programs. So sometimes in our office, we'll hear of listings coming up before they hit the market, and there's times I can get you into those. And then obviously, as well as finding off market or self-help homes, sometimes houses come back on the market or taken off the market, or for some reason are never listed, but they're motivated sellers out there that we can find. So your search, Austin, could take as little as 1 day or 1 year. Go at your own pace. Don't be afraid to, adjust your timeline. But I like to say that it's my job to help you understand the pros and cons to your timing. And really, I like to think about it that good agents are experts at playing dominoes. And what I mean by that is making things fall into place on your schedule and preference. Sound good?
Great.
Awesome. So making an offer on a house. So we found the home you love. Now comes the serious part of time to write up an offer. So this is kind of where I prove my skill set, provide coaching so you can get through this process, and really where the teamwork happens between me, you, and the lender. So in making an offer, you're basically telling, what time is it?
42.
Cool. You're making an offer, you're telling the seller and seller's agent what terms you'd buy the house on. So one thing to remember is that making an offer doesn't actually mean you're buying the house. It's more of just a formal way of talking and negotiating. Until that seller actually signs your offer, we're just talking and negotiating. So the goal is really to get our offer accepted or get a counter offer. So counter offer means, let's say we offer a seller 400,000, they're going to counter back and say, you know what, I actually want to pay 415. And if you do, the house is yours. We would like to be a part of that conversation, or just get our offer accepted straight up as we submit it, right? So during this process, we're going to run into what's called a seller's agent. So seller's agent is the agent representing the seller or the builder. And the way I like to think about them is that they're hired to make that other party as much money as possible. So just be careful when you're out there in the field, because there will be times when you go to an open house without me and the agent, nudges you and says, hey, I can save you some money if you work with me. The problem with that is that when an agent lists a house and I'm not involved, not only are you at jeopardy because you don't have someone protecting you, but that agent's actually going to make double the amount of money to have you buy the house from the seller. And in turns, most of the time, the seller actually never saves any money. So you can kind of see how they could easily not have your best interest in mind. Does that make sense? And same with builders. When there's an agent not involved, they're not as quick to give up incentives or negotiate because they know there's no resistance. So with my builders right now, I've got a couple that they've literally told me, just because of the relationship I have with them, bring me an offer. Whatever you want to offer, we'll consider. Right? Versus you walking in and just getting told, here's the asking price, and you going, okay, seems like a good deal, but finding out there was $30,000 on the table you've missed out on. Right? So it's important to have me involved. So offer accepted. So obviously we submitted an offer, and as a team, we're able to get the deal to work. So now what? You're now under contract. So there's 4 deadlines we'll quickly talk about. We got to get through when you go under contract. So seller's disclosure. So this is a document we get from the seller in a time period where we verify everything the seller's disclosed about the house. So repairs, current issues, history, that's within 3 to 10 days of going under contract. We're then going to go into due diligence, which is where we're going to do an inspection and verify all the material things about the house. We have the option of negotiating for repairs depending on our agreement. That's usually within 5 to 14 days of going under contract. And again, those 2 deadlines are all about verifying the house and making sure you know exactly what you're buying before we finish up the deal. Then we're going to go into finance and appraisal. So during this deadline, you're going to have the value of the house assessed by your lender, or in other words, an appraiser, and you're going to get the final loan details buttoned up. So that way we're able to close. That's within 2 to 3 weeks of going under contract. And then settlement and closing, this is where we're going to go meet a title company, which we'll talk about. A title company is a neutral third party who closes out a transaction. They basically just make sure all the documents are done properly and all the money sent to the right people. We'll go meet with them and close up the transaction. And then, usually a day or so later, you get keys to your new home and it's officially in your name. The whole process usually takes 30 to 45 days. We're also going to encounter, like we talked about, an appraiser and an inspector. So an appraiser verifies the condition of, the value of the house for your lender, because the lender wants to know that the loan they're giving you is, the house is worth at least that. And then an inspector's job is we hire them to basically tell us how bad the house looks, so upfront what issues it has. Any questions? Awesome. So finishing touches, congratulations, you now own a home. You're free to start creating memories, enjoying meals, gatherings, and the sweet old American dream. So I'll obviously keep in touch throughout the process, as well as just in general long-term. Hopefully be considered a close friend. I really do value relationships I build with my clients and want to make sure that I'm, your go-to person for life, but also I'm just someone you could call and shoot the breeze with and have a good time. I want to provide you with valuable information, resources, and connections whenever you need it. So I always just use a random example, but one of my clients works at Purple, and I'm actually able to get people Purple mattresses for like $3,000 off sometimes. So if you ever need a mattress or anything for that matter, just let me know. And then in addition to that, I also throw client events to spoil my clients. Just saying. So we do things like pumpkin patches. We rented out 7 Peaks one year. I just kind of give them a reiteration. If you guys don't do that yet, that's fine. Take it out, or you can just say like, yeah, I'll probably do a pumpkin patch at some point this year, something like that. Cash Shepherd's doing a barbecue on Saturday, which probably not that expensive, honestly, but he'll have like 100 people show up, just doing it at a park. That's a great creative way to do it. Find a lender or two to pitch in for meat, cook it yourself, and you probably have a free client event where you can invite 100 people to come hang, so you could get really creative. And so good thing. Searching safely. So we've got our awesome KW app. KW's app is one of the best out there for, searching for properties, being able to look at real estate all over the United States and surrounding countries. So if you just want to see what's for sale in Canada for fun, you can. There's also a way to tailor it to yourself. And then what I use mostly is Utah Real Estate. So on my side, we do, like you talked about, daily alerts. So I'll set you up with an account on what's called the MLS, or in other words, Utah Real Estate. So as an agent, I pay, hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars every year to be a part of this. And this is where all the houses listed in Utah start. So I'll just shortcut all these other websites, give you access to this, and set you up on a daily alert so you know exactly what's listed at any given time. Next step. So, obviously, hopefully that was educational for you. Any questions? I don't usually breeze through it this quickly, but you guys get the idea. You want to just kind of pump the brakes, handle any last minute questions, concerns, objections. Say, awesome. Well, honestly, really all we got to do now is start preparing for the 5 steps of homeownership we discussed. There's a document the state has me sign, or has me have you sign. It just says I'm okay to represent you as an agent. So we'll go through that and get that signed. And then afterwards, let's get after it. The current state of the market, interest rates are increasing, and both price of houses and cost of rent is increasing. I need to update that. It's actually not true anymore. But at the time we made this, everything was going up, right? Average appreciation for the last 3 years has been 8+%. I always like to say, don't try to outsave inflation and appreciation. Let's get you in the driver's seat and, go find you a perfect house. So any questions there? Just for you guys. No. Do you feel confident that would earn you a buyer?
Yeah.
Give me a couple takeaways.
It's very informative about the process, how it works. So it takes away the fear that a buyer would have, like not understanding the process. So it gives them confidence in you that you know what you're doing, and help them not get lost in this whole process. And you've got a whole team working with you, so it just builds a lot of confidence in you and the team. So that
They're feeling good.
just half the issue with like buying real estate and stuff.
Yeah,
It's all that. So
fear kind of, or like misunderstandings.
it's really informative. It builds a lot of confidence and it sets up really good expectations.
Awesome. Anybody else?
I'd say a lot of people kind of think realtors are just in it for themselves, but I think that like kind of shows that like, no, we're like here to protect you. We have your back to get you the best.
Situation possible. Yep. Any takeaways on Zoom?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So at the big, for example, how you said at the beginning, like, are you the only one a part of this, like, process, buying a house process, or is there someone else involved? And if it's just them and they say, oh, my wife's involved as well, do you finish the consultation and then go back another day and do the consultation again?
I have, yeah. And honestly, it's because if I pump the brakes, there's a chance I may not get to meet with the wife. I would rather double down on winning over the person in front of me, because they're ultimately going to be the one that sells the other person to use me as well, rather than pump the
Okay.
brakes. On a listing appointment, I will not go on a listing appointment if both parties aren't present. That's a waste of time. Buyers
Okay.
are I'm a little more relaxed with, just because listings is like so transactional in business. Buyers are much more relationship oriented, right? In the sense of someone will go hire HomeAid to sell their house and not bat their eye twice if there's 5 different people involved in the transaction, people dropping the ball because they saved a nickel, right? But on a buyer side, like they're a lot more emotionally invested, meaning they're going to want someone that they can really rely on. And so I think taking the time to build that trust with whoever's in the room will lead you to then, knocking over the dominoes to get whoever else is involved on board. And normally too, with the parent situation too, like let's touch on that. If you went over the kids, like if they're the one buying the house, most of the time, the parent's just going to kind of fall in line. And, if you build enough credibility and confidence with that, let's say that the kid buying the house and their parents are helping them, then it's a lot easier to, button things up. Cash brought up a good point. He says, I always ask if they prefer calls or text. Help me get a buyer because they hate getting text, but I never bring up email. I agree with that. I think that's solid. We're going to quickly talk about the buyer broker script. So this is a simple script we put together to get the buyer broker signed every time. So, hey, listen, thanks for meeting with me today. I'm so excited to work for you. Like I talked about, there's a document I have to have you sign. You say Utah requires me to get your authorization to represent you. The state approved form explains a couple things like how I get paid and what my duties are to you. So it simply says, you just run through it really quick and then hand them a pen, shut up. Just need you to basically initial and date here. Cool. Hey, looking forward to working with you. It's very simple, right? And that's the thing is people get so scared about contracts, but it's really like that document has no teeth. It's like, it's no different than if you hired an attorney, like they're a licensed, representative or a contractor, like you have to have some form of agreement. If a contractor came and gave you a bid for 50 grand to do work on your house, but you said, hey, I don't want to sign a contract. Well, guess what? He's probably not going to do the work for you because he wants to know that he's taken care of just as much as you are, right? So
How long would you hold this contract for? typically?
I just say I don't put a timeline on it. So there's 3 sections that talks about address or certain county. I literally just put any in the county and leave everything else blank. So it basically just says they're working with me until they buy a house in any county in Utah. So it's indefinite, right? Some people put a 6-month time frame. I don't. Just because and I don't also limit it to the address or anything like that unless it's like the buyer specifically requests, like it's an investor saying, hey, I'm not exclusive to you. So help me with this house, but other than that, like if I find something else with this guy over here, I'm gonna buy it. Then I do address specific. But if not, I don't put a time frame on it. Because if you read it, you either put a time frame on it or it says, or upon the purchase of a house located in any county in Utah, right?
So you don't have to put any date on it?
No.
Does that help buyers feel like more relaxed? Whenever you
Um,
put the date out?
I don't even talk about the date really. I just says, hey, this just gives me authorization to help you buy a house anywhere in Utah. And like you say, because most buyers, they don't really fret or care. And it's for me, I don't put a commission amount on my buyer broker. I say as negotiated or advertised. So, right, like leaves it open for me. If there's someone advertising $2,500, then I can ask for 3% or 2% or whatever. But I'm basically writing that so I don't pass that along to the buyer, meaning if I can't negotiate my paycheck, I'm not going to tell a buyer you owe me 2% at closing. I won't do it. So, yeah, so my clients typically feel pretty comfortable. But that's just, again, the way I present it and kind of set up structured things so they know that I have their best interest in mind or I'm not trying to add to their plate. We already talked about, that's a good question though. We already talked about lessons learned, current mission, again, let's see, this says July still, whoops. So that's supposed to say August, but again, database, get it to minimum 200 contacts as soon as possible, do your 10-4 every day. That's how you're going to get business. It's ultimately your job description. Austin and I went through 411, but GPS and 411, those are great tools. Again, that's how you set a weekly, monthly, yearly plan for yourself. And it's important. If there's no plan, nothing's going to happen. It's one thing to say, I have a goal to sell 10 houses. Another thing to say, I've got a plan to sell 10 houses, right? Group coaching requirements. So let's talk about this. Ignite, launch, Pro U completed, as well as case studies, database uploaded, and then 411 filled out for whatever month we're in. Those are your requirements for group coaching. You can get those done for me. Ask for help if you need it. Then has group coaching been good? Tyler, do you enjoy it?
I love it.
Yeah. How about you, Austin? You kind of had a mini group coaching session and you've been to one. Like it's
Yeah.
helpful.
They're very helpful. Help you get focused and know. Yeah, to use your time efficiently.
Awesome. So yeah, if you're not a part of group coaching, talk to me about the requirements. Let's get you in as soon as possible. And then I just want to quickly check in with you guys before we wrap this up. How's it going? So lead generation, I know we're meeting today. I saw your little note, so that's awesome. I know we met yesterday, but outside of that, how's it going? Are you guys doing the lead generation right now?
I'm gonna do that.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. On Zoom, Cash, Kaysen, or Carlos, how's your lead generation going?
I can go. It's all right. I mean, I'm just getting in touch with all these people, like from school and stuff. I feel like for the most part, I just get people that are willing to work with me, but they're not gonna buy for another 2 or 3 years. So I'm just trying to find people that are ready to buy sooner than that.
Awesome. Couple of tips there. Anybody can add your database is great because you need some for now and for later. Asking those people for referrals on who they know, who they know that's looking to do something right now. That's the easy way to shortcut that and also pick up a deal. And then once your database is set up and you've stayed consistently in touch with it, and you also know you've been asking for referrals, that's where you can start implementing other lead generation sources like FISBOs, expireds, geo leads, some of the more low hanging short term fruit for your business. But I think you're doing the right thing. So I'll just say, make sure with your strategy, you're asking for referrals, because you'd be surprised at how many people they know somebody, you know. An easy way to say that is, hey, like, just before I lay you off the call, I just gotta tell you, I've got a goal this year to help 10 families in real estate. Do you know of anybody I can help right now? How different does that sound than who do you know is looking to buy or sell, right? So you're coming from a place of service, and they might say, oh, you know, my nephew's looking for a rental. Do you think you could help him? Well, no, I don't. Well, you know, connect me with him. I don't really work with rentals, but I'll text him over some information on a couple websites I'd recommend. Like, always try to do your best to give something, right? But by doing so, that anybody lacking knowledge or information they feel like they need, or even training on anything? Everything, yeah. Well, if there's something specific you guys need help with, just feel free to reach out anytime. Any wants, needs right now?
As far as like working with the title company goes,
Mhm.
how much of that is the transaction can do for making the title, and how much does the agent do?
Yeah, so a good question. I think either way, you should be as involved as possible, regardless of who you delegate it to. That's just more so for the fact you need to learn it. I know that Jen's team will help, I believe, will help set up getting your PR report. So once you go under contract, or you get a listing agreement signed, they'll start coordinating with title to help you get those things arranged. And then I always think it's good to just kind of like stay, like, I guess, on the pulse, right? To know what's happening and ask questions. But yeah, part of the transaction checklist is to get a PR, it's called a PR preliminary report ordered. So I wouldn't assume that they're doing anything. I would ask just to be safe, but that should be a part of the process. Well, cool, guys. I think it's about time to wrap up. We got another training for shift here in about 3 minutes. So I appreciate you guys joining us today. Something I can do for you, let me know. But if not, we'll see you. I go to town tomorrow, so I'll see you Monday.